In the previous video, we saw both the Nawab and the company had different views, clearly contradicting each one's. And finally, that led to the famous Battle of Plassey. Now, Sirajud-Daulah became the Nawab of Bengal. As I've said earlier, he was a strong ruler, just like Ali Khan. Plus, he also did not like how the company was doing duty-free trade and humiliating the Nawab's administration. So overall, he was angry and wanted to be strict with the company. Now, this worried the company because the company always wanted a puppet ruler who would willingly give trade concessions and other privileges to the company. Now, the company wanted to play politics here. They wanted to make one of Sirajud-Daulah's rival the Nawab of Bengal, who would act like a puppet of the company. And Sirajud-Daulah came to know about this conspiracy and also the English interest in colonization of his region. He simply asked the company to stop interfering in the political affairs of his region. Then he also asked them to stop fortification work around the Fort William and pay the tax revenues. As usual, the company did not listen to his directives. So in 1756, when Sirajud-Daulah became the Nawab, in that year itself, he captured Fort William at Calcutta with his 30,000 soldiers and kept English soldiers and officials as temporary captives in the cells of that fort. So basically he attacked the English company. Now this news was immediately sent to the company officials in Madras. They sent forces on naval fleets under the command of Robert Clive. Robert Clive was an officer in the company's army. At that time he was a lieutenant colonel. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajud-Daulah at Plassey. Plassey is a place near to the city of Murshidabad, which was the capital of the Nawab of Bengal. So what Robert Clive did was, he played politics and made an agreement with Mir Jafar, who was one of Sirajud-Daulah's commanders. Clive had promised to make him Nawab after crushing Sirajud-Daulah. As a result, the English company won the Battle of Plassey. They defeated Sirajud-Daulah because Mir Jafar took large portion of the Nawab's army away from the battlefield, ensuring his defeat. Sirajud-Daulah fled from the battlefield on a camel, securing whatever he could, but he was later captured by Mir Jafar's forces and was assassinated. Now the Battle of Plassey was the first major victory of the company in India. Since Robert Clive was the one who made it possible, he was immediately made as the governor of Bengal by his superiors in Madras. So in 1757, Clive was made as the governor of Bengal. The victory gave massive boost to the company because now they felt they were capable of ruling as well apart from trading. But then the company was not interested in taking over the responsibility of administration. Their prime object was to expand their trade with privileges from the local ruler. For this to happen, the company had to get itself involved in the internal affairs of the states. Keeping that in mind, the company started a new system called as the residency system, in which the company would appoint a resident who dealt with the relations between British India and a large number of princely states, in particularly looking after the interest of the company's trade. So in 1758, Governor Robert Clive chose Warren Hastings as the British resident in Bengali capital of Murshidabad. Now this person, Warren Hastings, was one of the prisoners who was held by Sirajud-Daulah's forces when they captured Fort William at Calcutta in 1756, due to which Battle of Plassey took place in the following year. So anyways, by appointing residents, we can clearly see what the company's intentions were. They wanted to use political, economic and diplomatic methods to extend their influence. For example, the company with the help of its residents was trying to decide who was to be the successor of the throne and who was to be appointed in administrative posts. And by doing so, it can extend its influence and become more powerful. Now this period from 1757 is the beginning of company rule in India. Now after the 1757 Battle of Plassey, Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal as promised by Robert Clive. He was known as the Puppet Nawab. Now even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. After all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from the regional people. So what did the company do when Mir Jafar protested? Well, the company deposed him and installed his son-in-law Mir Qasim in his place, meaning they installed another puppet Nawab. So in 1760, Mir Qasim was made as the Nawab of Bengal. And in the same year, Governor Robert Clive left India and returned to Britain with massive wealth. He again came back later, about which I'll tell you in a while. As time went by, even Mir Qasim complained. In 1764, the company fought the Battle of Buxar under the command of Major Hector Munro. against the combined armies of Mir Qasim, who was the Nawab of Bengal, made by the company, then Shujauddaulah, who was the Nawab of Awadh, and the then Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. It was due to the lack of basic coordination among these three allies led to their defeat in Battle of Buxar. Mir Qasim fled the battlefield and later committed suicide, and Mir Jafar was reinstalled as the Nawab of Bengal in 1764 by the company. So he was made twice the Nawab of Bengal by the company. During the Battle of Buxar, Robert Clive was in England. He returned to India for the second time in 1765 and was appointed the Governor of Bengal in 1765 to 1767 for the second time. In 1765, Mir Jafar died, as he was the Nawab of Bengal, and soon after his death, the mood of the company changed, because the company demanded more money from the Nawab to finance its wars and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. It wanted more territories and more revenue, and a lot of times these puppet Nawabs would not listen, as they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity to gain respect in front of their people. So basically, the company was tired of the puppet Nawab system. Governor Robert Clive then wrote to the company chairman in London. He said, "We must indeed become Nawabs ourselves." Remember, Clive was an officer in the company's army who was made the governor of Bengal. He did not have any authority to conquer the Bengal province. While he could not, instead he lobbied his superiors for permissions to become a Nawab. In 1765, he introduced the dual system of government for the Bengal province. The dual system of government was a double system of administration, which was introduced by Robert Clive. Under this system, the administration was divided between the company and the Nawab, but the whole power was actually concentrated in the hands of the company. This complex system remained in practice during the period from 1765 to 1772. Under this system, the company undertook the defense and left the civil administration in the hands of Nawab. With no surprise, finally in 1765, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II appointed the company as the Diwan of the Bengal provinces. Of course, the emperor did not do this in free will. The Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II was just defeated by the English in Battle of Buxar. The Emperor Shah Alam II was forced to grant the Diwani of Bengal to the English company. As a Diwan of Bengal, the company got the right to collect taxes on behalf of the emperor from the eastern province of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. These rights allowed the company to collect revenue directly from the people of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. In return, the company paid an annual tribute to the emperor. Now this solved a major problem of the company that it had all these years while it was doing trade with India. Once they got the Diwani rights, the company stopped receiving money from England to buy merchandise in India. The revenue received from Bengal was used for this purpose, and the money earned by selling these goods went back to England, not spent in Bengal. You see how one thing led to another, and eventually the company became economically self-sufficient and was also sending money back to England. So basically the British loot of India begins. Now apart from becoming a Diwan and acquiring more resources, power and authority, the company officials had some unfulfilled wish. Each company officials began to have visions of living like Nawabs. Now if you remember in the beginning I said a lot of the company officials made millions of pounds and lived a lavish lifestyle back in England, all looted from the Indian treasury. One such person was Robert Clive. He made a lot of money in India. He came to Madras from England in 1743 at the age of 18. During that time he was just an assistant shopkeeper in the English company. Later he joined the company's army branch as an officer. Because of his contribution and success in wars between other European traders, then the Battle of Plassey, he was made the governor of Bengal twice, first in 1757 and second in 1764. Then in the following year, that is in 1765, he persuaded the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II to grant the company Diwani of Bengal. In 1767, he left India. His Indian fortune was worth 4,01,102 pounds. Just imagine the kind of quick money some of these company officials were making while doing private trade, as well as looting from the local Nawabs and their provincial treasury. After 5 years of leaving India, that is in 1772, he was charged with corruption by the British Parliament, who was suspicious of his vast wealth. Although he was acquitted, he committed suicide in 1774. This clearly proves that he was involved in many big corrupt activities during his time in India. So this was the quick story of Robert Clive, who was also known as the Clive of India. It would not be correct in saying that all the company officials were corrupt like Clive. In fact, there were many who did not make a lot of money. There were many who died in India due to disease and war. Many of them came from humble backgrounds as their desire was to earn enough in India, return to Britain and lead a comfortable life. And those who returned with a lot of wealth, like Robert Clive, lived a lavish, flashy lifestyle. They were called Nabobs. It's an English version of Indian word Nawab. Now if you look at the timeline, we are now somewhere around 1774. But let's go back to 1772. During this time, the company acquired power not only in Bengal but also in Bombay and Madras. British territories were broadly divided into administrative units called presidencies. There were three presidencies: Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. Each was ruled by a governor. Just like how Robert Clive was the governor of Bengal, like that there were governors of Madras and Bombay. The supreme head of the administration was the Governor General, meaning all these governors would report to the Governor General. And Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of India. He was appointed as the Governor General in 1772. And not to forget, Warren Hastings is the same guy who was once the prisoner of Siraj-ud-Dowlah when he captured Fort William at Calcutta in 1756. In the next part of this video, we'll see how the company expanded its rule by setting up new administration.